Languages. Now, when it comes to land, and in particular foreigners buying New Zealand farms, people get pretty nervous. When American couple Anders and Emily Crofoot traded New York for one of the Wairarapa's most iconic landmarks, they weren't exactly welcomed here with open arms. But for more than a decade, these American-born Kiwis, that's what they like to call themselves now, American-born Kiwis, have worked hard developing Castlepoint Station, not just for themselves, but for their community and the wider New Zealand public. Daniel Faitaua with the investors that may just change your mind on foreign ownership.
They call it their slice of heaven, 9,000 acres stretching across 12 kilometres of coastline.
I love the fact that it's a frost-free climate. The coastline is just so dramatic and beautiful.
No 2 days are the same, just a magnificent spot. And the remoteness is, just the lack of people.
12 years ago, the American couple sold their New York farm to buy New Zealand's iconic Castlepoint Station.
Manhattan is twice as wide, but about the same length as the station. So, when you think there are 8 or 9 million people there, and here there are 5 families, it's a magical place to be.
Rather than locking the public out, about a dozen times a year the family open their farm to the locals for public events, including today's book launch.
To me, a lot about today is about families.
They arrive in droves to celebrate this family's generosity.
It's about all of you as the extended Castlepoint family. And I think it's a real celebration of everybody's commitment of coming together.
Locals here have huge respect for the Crofoots. It's a stark contrast to what many of us think when it comes to foreign ownership.
And I think the fears of foreign investors, I think, are really probably blown way out of proportion. I mean, nobody's going to take the land with them. What's
interesting is that very often when an overseas investor comes in, the Kiwis actually have more say on how that property is managed in this current structure than they do when a New Zealander buys it. It's just magical to see so many faces I do know and so many I have yet to meet. We just thought if you get a sense of the warmth in here, it's beginning to simulate what it was like when it was filled with sheep.
But the welcome mat hasn't always been this inviting. The Crofoots say they've had to earn and sometimes battle for acceptance on this isolated rural community.
You're coming into a new community and you try and fit in, and people have been very accepting. You sort of get the occasional jibe about foreigners.
I knew as a woman being involved with agriculture that I had 2 strikes against me before I opened my mouth, and one was that I was female and one that I was foreign. So I was very, very careful what I said and how I said it.
Since taking over, they've pumped millions of dollars into the farm to help lift its production.
We've been reinvested an awful lot of money in new development in terms of fencing and a track going through the farm, rebuilding yards, and just keeping up with the maintenance. On a place this big, there's always something that's in need of replacement.
Aside from that, they're active members of their community. Anders is very involved with farm politics, including Federated farmers, while Emily is working towards establishing a walled business.
We have New Zealand citizenship because we wanted to fully integrate in the country, and I know that's not always the case with investors.
How would you like people to remember you both?
Probably just as good stewards of the land. I mean, the land's here forever, we're not, and so really our role is just to take care of it and hopefully leave it in better shape than we found it.
How proud are you of your parents?
Very, very proud. Like what they've achieved since coming here when they didn't know anyone in the region. They've just done so much and brought so much to the community.
Among the crowd, Emily and Anders' 20-year-old daughter, Sarah.
Not everyone is here to take the money out of New Zealand. That some people genuinely love New Zealand as a country and just want to add to it and just want to be part of it.
For this American-born Kiwi family, they're here to stay, keeping the heritage of Castlepoint alive for all families to celebrate.
We don't know really what the future brings, but we've still got some life left in us, so we're here for a while.
The privilege is being good stewards of the land to everybody, and I feel that that's the most important criteria, not where they come from.